today changes my whole entire life.
Welcome to Gritability, a podcast about the power of perseverance, overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds to attain the life of your dreams. I'm your podcast host, Adam Clausen, and with me in the studio today is, of course, the beautiful and radiant Ro Clausen.
Good morning. I love when you're back in the studio because I always mess up your intro. So this is great. I'm off the hook today.
You do an amazing job.
Thank you.
Can you you want to tell everyone else who's in the studio with us today?
Yes, we are not alone in the studio today. We have our good friend Celeste here with us.
Hi, guys.
Hi. We're so excited to have you on.
Yes.
I'm so excited to be here. I am. I love you guys.
We love you more.
Well, this is a very cool way to start the day. We're in here a little bit earlier than usual. So I know everybody in here has had their coffee this morning. And I'm going to jump right into it by starting off and saying, today we're going to be talking, sharing a little bit about something that we've talked about many times on here, the recovery community, something that we've been very proud to be a part of. When I was on the inside, I found my passion for fitness, and that became my foundation. And really, Ro and I, our relationship has always been grounded within that. And during the most challenging times, like especially there towards the end, COVID, we were waiting on relief. The one thing that I look forward to every day was the workouts that we shared with each other. Like that became a connection for us. And not just for us, I've watched it so much over the years, bring people together, build community around that. And there was a special on CNN a number of years back, not sure what year that was, that talked about the Phoenix. Phoenix was an organization that was promoting sober, healthy, active community based around CrossFit, based around other activities. And for me, that was something, as soon as I saw it, I said, man, that's something I want to be a part of. And while Ro and I were traveling across the country, we actually stopped in Denver as part of our trip and had a chance to meet with the founder and CEO and shared a little bit of our story, told them that we were headed to Vegas, and we're like, listen, whenever you guys are ready to start something in Vegas, please let us know. And true to his word, Scott hooked us up with John Moreno, who, man, John became a close friend of ours and founded the community out here. And through that community, we got connected to so many amazing individuals, including Celeste and her family.
Yeah, shout out to John. Like he's big, a big part of my life. He's the reason why I got into it, because I would see him come in at 5 a.m., do these like gnarly workouts. Like he was always there. And I was like, man, what's up with this guy, He looked a little scary. Like, I didn't want to go up to him and talk to him because he looked like he was in it, I remember somebody told me, that he was very open about how he had gone to prison, how he was a recovering addict and everything. And I was like, you know what, there was a point, when I met him and stuff, that I was kind of struggling with my own issues with my brother. I have a brother that was an alcoholic addict, and I was like, we didn't know what to do, as a family member. I know that a lot of family members are lost. They don't understand why their family member, is addicted and is throwing their life away and can't seem to crawl out of that black hole that they've dug themselves into. So I kind of wanted to understand a little bit more. And so I approached John, I remember between sets or something. And I was like, hey, I have a brother, that's an addict. And he was like, oh, you know what? I just talked to Billy. That's the owner of Sin City, the CrossFit me and John met each other at. And he's like, and I'm about to start this program. And he talked to me about the Phoenix. And he's like, you should try to get your brother to come. But he was also like, and you should come yourself, because maybe as a family member, you'll get an understanding, and like, maybe it'll help you out. So that's what I did. I went and joined a class at the Phoenix, for the Phoenix, I'm sorry. And then I remember that I would invite my brother, and he would not show up ever. I remember he showed up like once, and he was like, "No, this is hard." And then I met a lot of great people. I met you guys. I remember that I started like talking to people, understanding a little bit more about like addiction and like losing that, that mentality I had. I would have this mentality like, why the fuck can't my brother just snap out of it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, it was it just changed my whole, like, I think it bettered my relationship with my brother. So that was, I'm very grateful for that, because when you're a family member and you have and you don't know, how to handle it, you try every combination you can to try to get them to change, to try to control the situation yourself. Like, you're like, oh, well, I'll stop talking to them, or I'll talk to them way more. I'll have them in my house. You know what I mean? I'll take everything away. I'll give everything. Like, you just try anything and everything to see if you can change them. But what I realized there was that you can't. They have to basically like save themselves, and that's what I learned. And I learned, I also made my dad go, which was...
He looked like he enjoyed
Oh, he
being there.
did.
I was going to say, I don't think you had to push him too hard to get there.
Yeah. And then when I invited him, I was already at a point where I didn't expect like really my brother to join us. It was more like for my dad maybe to get an understanding of the situation himself. I remember talking to you guys and being like, my fear is that, like, I felt like my brother was so far gone that I was like, I know he's gonna die. Like, you know what I mean? And what I didn't want was that guilt that my dad was gonna feel, because like I said, I understood that. I remember I think it was something like you said, Adam, that was like, he's not gonna change, if he doesn't want to. Like, he has to find it within himself to change. Like, you can't make him change. You can, and you said that, you were like, you can try any combination of things. You can take things away. You can, give him everything. And you're just doing what you think is right in the moment. And, it's not going to work unless he wants it to. So that's kind of like what I wanted my dad to understand. Because I was like, when the day comes that he's gone, I know he's going to blame himself. So...
It's crazy because it's almost like you were grieving him while he was alive. And that has to be so hard to deal with, because we beat ourselves up. And you said like he has to be willing to change and he's trying to save his own life. But in the meantime, you're trying to save your own life while trying to save his life.
Yeah.
So hard. Can you take us back a little bit? Like, do you remember when it started with your brother, how it started?
Okay, so I come from like a long line of alcoholics and drug addicts. Like, we're Mexican, so it's like everybody drinks. And it's like, it gets to a point where it's like, when we only consider you an alcoholic when you're no longer functioning, right? Mm-hmm. So the issue with my brother was that he was highly functioning, highly. He went to school, he went to Le Cordon Bleu, he became a chef. He was a dad. He was married. He would go to work every day. Like, my dad has restaurants. He was going to go into the restaurant business. That's why he went and studied to become a chef. He would go in at 6 a.m, prep all the sauces, everything. He was like responsible. So we never considered, that he had an issue until it was like way, way too late. Like once we started seeing him struggle, it was like almost like he was too far gone.
What did that struggle look like?
So there came a point already when like he asked us for help. And I was like, okay, I think it was, when I kind of noticed, I think it was we went on a family trip. Like we used to take trips like to like my brothers and sisters to different places. And we went to Japan, and he would wake up, like he would wake us up like eight in the morning, and he'd be like super like, hey, yeah, let's go. Come on, blah, 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 blah. And I'd be like, wow, you have so much energy. He's like, I've been up since 5. I went to the bar. And I'd be like, wait, what do you mean you got up at 5 and went to the bar? And every day he was like drinking like hardcore to where like, we couldn't keep up with him and stuff. And I was like, and then he would have mood changes to where like, now when he wasn't drunk or whatever, he'd be upset. And it just like kind of started like, I started noticing it then. And then I kind of mentioned it to my dad. And then I remember that one time, I don't know what happened. My dad used to have all these tequila bottles in his house, and he pulled one out and tried to like, put it, like give a shot to my uncle or something that was over. And what happened was that it was water.
Wow.
So he was like, wait, he went through, and I mean, he had hundreds of bottles. They were all water.
Wow.
So we realized, well, who's drinking? Well, it was my brother. And like, my grandfather was a big time alcoholic to the point where like he would drink and like, he lost money. Like his mom passed away, left him a house, he sold it. He went to the bar, got wasted, lost all the money, like type of stories like that. But then, my grandfather, he got sick. He got a defibrillator pacemaker put in, and around 50, like he like got his shit together, and he was, he became like the greatest grandpa, everything, everybody would go through that little bump. So I think we also thought that maybe it was my brother's like just a little phase, where he was like really struggling. And then, no, it was like, it just kept getting worse every single time. And I was like, we didn't know how to help him. We would find bottles, like he would be working in the restaurant, and we would find little like those Southern home wine bottles, like on the roof. Like one time we had to repair the roof, and it was full of little bottles. And we were like, holy shit, this guy like really has a problem. Like, you know what I mean? Like he wouldn't even like throw them away. He would like, it was almost like he was asking for help, leaving things around. Yeah. And then we try to get him, we do what everybody tries to do, and it's like treat the addiction, just stop drinking. Let's get him to stop drinking, but not really look into why he's drinking. You know what I mean? That's one thing that like now I think about, and I'm like, one message that I want to get out there is why, think about it. Like if you're an addict or whatever, like really like consciously, like, look within yourself of why you're doing what you do. Like, is it when you feel uncomfortable? Is it because you have like some deep set depression? After thinking, now I think about it with my brother, and I'm like, we also like my family, we have hardcore. And when I mean hardcore ADHD. I know everybody says, oh, I have ADHD, but no, like we have like to where we can't function right. You know what I mean? Like if I want to talk to my dad, for instance, just to give you an example, and it's like a serious conversation that I know is going to last more than 5 minutes. Like now I like think about it. I'm like, wow, I have to like, I will go to the restaurant and I will like kind of like a caged animal, like put him into a booth where he can't get out and kind of just block him. Because I know if he sits on the outside, he's going to find a reason to get up and leave and, whatever. They would have like restless leg. You know what I mean? And I feel now that I've done with myself, because I'm the same way. Like I used to have like all these like anger outbursts, and like, I mean, I still do. I mean, I haven't been cured, but now I've gone to like a psychiatrist and like have gotten, I actually take medication. Ever since my brother's thing, I kind of looked within myself as well, because I would do things also like when I would feel stressed, I would stress eat. So it would be like kind of like, at night when I actually had some time to like, I was always like looking for that dopamine.
Yeah.
And we do that. So, I feel like we have ADHD and come from a line of like addicts. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's like, twice as bad. And I was looking also at case studies and stuff, and there are actually like over, if you have ADHD, you're 15 to 25, some studies say, more likely to become an addict or an alcoholic, because if you're not being treated, you know what I mean? And you're looking for that dopamine surge, and it's just, I think that, that has a little bit to do with it. So I also, want to let people know that maybe they should also look into like their mental health. It's true, mental health is wealth. And they need to, maybe think about that. Some people are also like wrongly diagnosed for things. Like for instance, I know I get anger issues. I don't react with depression. I feel like my brother reacted with depression. The way I explain ADHD to people is like, kind of like if you had schizophrenia, but you don't. Like, you're not hearing voices. It's just a whole bunch of thoughts at the same time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like thinking about, okay, I have to take out the trash. I have to take out the trash. Then I'm like, oh, okay, and wash the dishes, take out the trash, wash the dishes. While I'm thinking, okay, tomorrow, what do you have to do? Okay, next, you know what I mean? It's just a whole bunch of thoughts at once. And sometimes just the littlest things you can't control makes you feel like the world is crumbling down on you. So I don't know, like I feel that. So I don't know if that's what my brother felt. You know what I mean? But it's like, I feel like it's worth it to look into if you are like suffering from an addiction or something. Because also like, I mean, I like to drink, like I do like to socially drink and like try the drinks because I like the taste of tequila or mezcal and like, whatever. But I do feel that before I was medicated, it was more to get that dopamine. Like I even used to like to drink in the morning, like before I ate anything, because I know it would give me like a higher dopamine like rise.
Wow.
I love this. And you know what, not to cut you off, but I think we glossed over your introduction where Celeste is a doctor. So
I am. Yeah.
So we should probably throw that out there that you say.
I'm retired already. Yeah.
I want to be retired.
I know. I'm like, yeah, no. But, I mean, that's, yeah, I went to med school. That's where I met my husband. I was, studying for my exams so I could do a residency here in Nevada. They don't have the residency I want, which is pathology. I wanted to be a Las Vegas corner, basically.
You wouldn't think that there are too many people fighting for that job.
Right.
Like they would make
but they
it
don't
easy
have.
for you.
Yeah, but they don't have like the thing is that you have to go through residency. Like I have to do a pathology residency, and then you have to do like forensic pathology, and then in order to like get a medical forensic, like, so they don't have that. And COVID really like killed wanting me to do anything in the hospital. So I just was like, you know what, after, my life has changed now a 1,000,000% of how I do things, how I think. And I really, I'm like, I used to be like, old me would be like, oh no, you went to med school, no, you're going to hustle and you're going to do it even if you don't feel like it because you didn't do it for nothing. You know what I mean? New me is like, if pathology opens up, we'll do it. If not, that's not what I want to do. I'd rather be helping out. I also lived, all my life in the restaurants and stuff. And I was like, I get to be with my sister because I'm working with my sister. Shout out to Stephanie. I get to be with her. I get to, it's really fun. I mean, so but I just always wanted more. You know what I mean? So that's why I felt like, no, I should be a doctor. I should be more. But it's not about that now, I feel. And it's not, you know, like people, like before I used to be like, well, what are people going to say? You know, oh, you went to med school and you're not doing a residency. You're not going to practice, you know, where did you go to med school? Like sometimes I actually still get comments and I'll be like, well, you know, I got
really fucking smart.
I got a doctor husband, so it wasn't for nothing. Yeah. Maybe I went to go snatch one of those. I don't know, you know?
Well, and you did do the school part. Like,
Yeah.
Oh no, I did. Yeah. I did 1 year
That's
of
impressive.
internship. It was really hard. Because it's not here. Like I did med school in Guadalajara. And that's Mexico, Guadalajara, Mexico. And they don't have all the rules that they have here. Like, honestly, here, if you do a residency or something, like, you don't do more than 12 hours. Over there, we had 36-hour shifts every third day. You would be like A, B, C. And if you were C, it didn't matter if it landed on a Sunday, Saturday, you were staying 36 hours. You had a bed there. You had, you know, it was hardcore, but I liked it. I'm very hardcore. I like that. That's why I like CrossFit.
I was gonna say, I've seen.
I like
you,
to suffer.
I've seen you in the gym. We can attest. You
Yeah.
are definitely hardcore.
Yeah.
And that's something that always stood out to me. You know, how we initially connected was through that Phoenix, through the community.
Yeah.
And I was always impressed by, you know, your commitment as a loved one, you know, to continue to be involved, to keep that space open for your brother. Very similar to, you know, our relationship, me being on the inside, Ro building a community
Yeah.
of supporters on the outside. Like, we understand the importance, the significance of having people around you that understand kind of what you're going through.
Yeah.
And, you know, outside of the stigma and everything else, who are willing to stand there with you. For both of us, fitness, as I said, has, you know, been a foundation. It's been a way of connection.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where we got to initially connect.
Yeah. I was, you know, part of me was hoping that like my brother would get addicted to working out like John did and stuff. Cause I kind of feel like you don't just stop being an addict, you know, you just switch the addiction.
Agreed.
Yeah. So that's what I was like, you know what I mean? Like, if you need to get up at 5 in the fucking morning, 7 days a week to not use, then do it. You know what I mean? Like, trade it for good addictions.
That's
you know?
right.
That's and I feel like community is like, also, you know, I feel like also you don't want to, the Phoenix made me look at myself too, because I was like, oh, I'm not an addict. You know what I mean? Well, kind of. Now I know that I am, that I totally could be. I don't know. I got lucky. I don't know what stopped me from, like, you know, going, but I like drinking. I mean, I remember I had to ask my doctor to not give me Loratabs because I would take those for fun, even though I, you know, should have been throwing out the bottle. You know, I would take them on, I would be like, oh, but I'd be responsible. So I wasn't an addict. I'd be like, you know what? No, I have med school. The weekend I'm off. I'll take them on the weekend.
Wow.
And stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, you don't think, oh, you're an addict. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, I'm here for my brother. But then you realize, like, everybody can work within themselves. You know what I mean? Nobody's perfect.
You said you've been going psychiatrist, medication, things that have been helping.
Yeah.
As much as you want to get into that and share, but also, how does fitness continue to fit in? What role does that play for you?
Oh, fitness is, I just, you know, I get a lot of stress and a lot of, I've said that I have like big time anger issues. Like I said, instead of getting like depression when I feel like overwhelmed, my reaction is anger. And I'm a very like angry, aggressive person. So I feel I did like martial arts for very long, and all I liked was fighting. That's why I have like a broken nose and stuff. Like, that was like, I didn't want to learn all the forms. I didn't want to do like any of the like discipline stuff. I didn't want to do I just wanted to go in there and fight. And when I would feel extra stressed, I would like go in there and just go at it. And that's how I feel about CrossFit, that I really liked about it, is that I will get angry, stressed, and I can grab a barbell and like shove it and like throw it around and like lift like weight.
That should be on a billboard somewhere.
Yeah. Right? Like that's what I like
Yes.
about it. But like, you know, I didn't do weightlifting because like, you know, how there's like also like powerlifting and stuff, because I like also like the cardio, like, you know, I like the, you know, that you get out of breath. Like I like that feeling. I don't know. I think I like suffering.
It's so funny though, because watching you, I've watched you in the gym, and if you didn't just say all of that, I would have never known, because I'm like, she has so much fun doing this. Like you just look like you're having so much fun.
Yeah, I'm like, it's not so much fun. It's me like releasing anger.
Yeah.
I mean, CrossFit helped me a lot in getting rid of a lot of the anger I had, but like it's still like at home sometimes I would still snap, and for the littlest, stupidest things, because like people, I'm telling you, people that don't have ADHD don't get, like, if you leave your socks around and I can see them and they're on my mind, that's another thing that's in my thought process, that I'm like, it's so easy to get rid of that. You know what I mean? And try to have like a clear mindset. Like, so it's just like all these people are like, why do you obsess over little things? Because if I have everything like in order, then the 10 thoughts that are going through my head at that time, maybe it doesn't make me so angry. You know what I mean? Like,
Makes so much sense.
yeah.
Wow. That's such a great perspective.
Yeah. And I know my brother had worse ADHD than I did. So I'm just like, man, I wish, like, you know, I would have known before, maybe tapped into more of like his mental health. You know what I mean? Because like I said, we tried to treat the addiction itself and be like, stop, just stop. But like, not really. Like, I mean, at the end I was like, why are you doing this? But he couldn't tell me anymore. You know what I mean? He couldn't tell me why he was doing it. Only sometimes when he was like trying to manipulate me, would he like come up with like, I don't know, something of like, I don't know, why my dad or why my mom, but it was just out of manipulation, I'm pretty sure. So I don't know. So I'm just trying to, you know, I was like, that's why I wanted to talk about this. Like, because I know there's people also that, my family's very open and we're very dark humored, which is great because it's gotten us through this. Like, but there's a lot of people that keep things inside and that care what other people think. And it's just like, you know, feel like, like you said, there's a stigma to like addiction and oh, you're a bad person.
Yeah.
And it's not that way.
Yeah. I love how you're so open about it. And I love how, I mean, you so need to be commended for the way that you handled it and are handling it now, where so many people are so bitter and like, it was all his fault and you're still angry at him.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you're going introspective and you're like, you know, I'm looking for these dopamine hits and this and that. And that's why I brought up you being a doctor, because you're qualified to say that. It's like such a catchphrase right now. People throw around all over social media, but you're actually qualified to say these things. So like in the moment when you were just saying, you know, he would make up these stories about his why just because he was trying to manipulate you.
Yeah.
Did you have other people to talk to? Like, did you have support in those moments? Where did you find that?
So after, like, when things got really bad, thankfully, I had already joined the Phoenix. I became really good friends with John, enough to where I could pick up the phone and be like, hey, also shout out to Brent. Brent was a big support system for me. I could call him and he'd be like, you know what? Just love him. Like, he's, you know, I mean, don't let him get away with it. He would be like, you know, don't let him get away with his shit. Like, tell him, like, hey, dude, I know, but I love you. And that's what I feel people also.
Great advice.
Yeah. I also want to, you know, give that message out to people that if maybe you have an addict in your family, same, love them, you know?
But call him on it too.
Oh yeah, but call him on that. Yeah, definitely. You have to. I would tell my brother all the time at the end. I'd be like, you know what? I love you no matter what. I would be like, but you're an addict and you're fucking high right now while you're calling me. And I'm like, and you need to, I hope you can save yourself. Like I would always end my phone conversations like that. Another thing that I also feel that is very important is my brother didn't die of an overdose, right? I guess we haven't told your listeners that my brother passed away. He did. He ended up passing away. But he didn't die of an overdose, which is what I thought he was going to die from. He died of alcoholic cardiomyopathy. So that is another thing that people really need to think about. Just because, you know what I mean? People are like, oh, I'm watching that it's not fentanyl. I'm watching that this. I'm like, yeah, but are you going to get checkups? Because like I had said earlier, my grandfather ended up getting a pacemaker defibrillator.
Mm-hmm.
And if my brother would have known, maybe, you know what I mean? He didn't know. We didn't know until they did the autopsy that he had no drugs in his system. He had told me that he had been clean for like 2-3 weeks. I didn't believe him when I got the call. I was 100% sure it was an OD. And when the coroner was like, no, he had no drugs in his system.
Wow.
It was his heart. I was like, what? I mean, it was bittersweet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sure.
But it's like, that's something else that, if you're struggling with addiction and stuff, like you need to get checked out. You know what I mean? Like you don't necessarily have to die of an OD. Like, especially if you're drinking that heavy amounts like my brother was, that's, yeah.
Oh my God.
His heart was like enlarged to like, maximum. So
You just blew my mind. That is such good advice because what addicts put their bodies through,
yeah,
and just never
and
think
you don't think about that. You think like, oh, once I'm like done being an addict, like I will be healthy again, and it's not that way. You know what I mean? I think the only thing he did check was his liver to see if he had cirrhosis, but he never checked his heart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And honestly, like I've never even considered that,
Yeah.
the additional health consequences. I mean, you think of that years later down the road,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But when a person is in active addiction of any kind, all you're really focused on is like that behavior at that moment.
Yeah.
And I've never considered, like what else is actually going on that might actually end your life if not addressed.
There's so many things in this episode that I love that I think people can take away from. Like, I feel like, the why underneath the addiction and
Yeah.
like lots of band-aids or just like quick fixes
Yeah.
and to think long term. And I
Yeah.
can only imagine there's so much stigma for an addict to go in and be like, yeah, I have this past with addiction. Like, I need to be checked for everything. But in everything that we're saying about the Phoenix, like when I was there, I never felt so supported and so loved
Oh,
and so
yeah.
accepted
Yeah.
by people. So I just think it's something you could so look past, and people can get checked and advise their loved ones to go get checked,
Yeah.
and they'll still be so loved.
Yeah. And I want to apologize because like everything is all over the place, but I feel like with addiction, that's how family members feel.
Yeah.
Everything's all over the place. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you're thinking of a million things. And that's why I'm like, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, like
Yeah.
jumping around from topic to topic and points I want to like give out to anybody listening that could maybe benefit. Another thing is that, yeah, community is very important. You know what I mean? Because I felt it with my brother. Like he would go into rehab for a year, come out, and then when he came out, since there is that stigma, you feel very lonely, I'm sure. You don't have friends.
Yeah.
You don't have, and if you don't have that, then you are more likely to just go right back into
Sure.
the addiction. So I'm like, that's why I think that programs like the Phoenix are very important. So, and that people that come, now anybody that I know, if they're like, oh, my son is in rehab, blah, 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 I'll be like, get them a community as soon as they come out, because you don't want them to fall back into that. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Well, I'm curious, because you're so open with your story.
No, yeah. Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we've seen is whenever we start talking and sharing and opening up about our story, people generally pretty quickly, acknowledge that they have some related experience with a family member. And it's one of those things that unfortunately people are generally not comfortable talking about
Yeah.
until you start to open up and share your own
Yeah.
story with them.
And it shouldn't be that way, I
It
feel like
shouldn't,
people should
no.
just share. Like nobody, like, can we get over the everybody's perfect already? Like, you know what I mean? Like, can we just be real?
Isn't it crazy
Right.
too? Because we all hide everything, but then like people connect so deeply and
Yeah.
they like share it on social media, but in person we all hide it. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's funny. We had a new babysitter this morning, and when she walked in, like a couple of the first things that she said were like, something about like everybody has a story, everybody has a past. So we got in the car and I'm like, oh, she totally Googled us. Like she totally knows. But it's funny because like I don't lead with it. Why would I,
Yeah.
And same that I love that you're so open about it because so many people can learn from and be helped by your story.
Yeah, like that's kind of like what I want with this is for
Yeah.
people to be like, there should be no shame in this, even with yourself. Like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like,
yeah.
I don't like I said, I don't give a shit. Like, I could easily be addicted to things.
Yeah.
I could, I have no shame in the game. Like and I feel
Yeah.
like the more you talk about it and the more you relate to people and the more, they give support. It's like I open up to you, it's like a support system. You
Exactly.
know what I mean? It's not like just like about, it's not just me. It's not just me helping people. It helps me too.
Sure.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And there's so much to be gained, especially by, knowing other people's experiences
Yeah.
and just knowing that that you're not alone in it.
Yeah.
But second, coming up with other ideas on how to connect to others and how to be there, how to offer that support. Like you said with
Yeah.
Brent,
Yeah.
he's like, just love him.
Yeah.
Like that's great advice. And when you're willing to open up and share your own personal situation, then others can give you that feedback.
Yeah.
How do you think too? Because you just said you made such a good point about how helping people helps you too.
Yeah.
And I remember years and years and years ago, I had a conversation with Adam when he was still in prison, and I needed to ask for help from somebody. I don't remember, but I'm like, but I don't want to bother them, blah, blah. And he goes, how do you feel when you help people? Doesn't it help
Yeah.
you too? Same situation. So how would you advise somebody going through it if they're a family member to even begin to start to ask for help or where to even look for it?
Yeah, that's hard because people, depending on their personality and stuff, they don't like to go out of their comfort zone and ask for help. But maybe, I don't know, talk to the person you most, the person closest to you, maybe if it's like a family member that's also going through that. Like if you, like me with my brother, I would talk to my sisters first, you know what I mean? And from there, like cousins, uncles, like, I don't know, a friend that's really close. Like, because I know that I know that there's people that I'm telling you that don't want to tell their cousin or their
Yeah.
friend because they're like, oh, then they'll know I have an addict in my family. You know what I mean? Or something. Like, it just should, like, so what? Like, just get over it. It's fine.
Well, I would say that there's definitely a way to spin it
Yeah.
and turn it into a positive for all the reasons that you said. When you learn how to channel all of that energy, because that's
Yeah.
really what it is, and put it towards something positive, something productive.
You just took the words out of my mouth. Like, that's the big picture of this whole thing is turn a negative into a positive. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like that's, and I want to get rid of that. Like, oh, like I remember being like, oh, it's bad now to talk about even like, I don't know, just any, like, I just feel like people just should be more open, and it's good for you. It's, everybody would be just happier if like nobody just stop caring what people think, honestly.
Yeah. I wish somebody would have had that conversation with me,
Yeah.
and there would have been a resource like the Phoenix, a place
Yeah.
where I felt like
Yeah.
I had a constructive
And
outlet.
I mean, it might not help work for everybody. Like I said, it didn't help my brother. It didn't save him, but it kind of saved me. You know what I mean? And I didn't expect it to. I was just there for like, oh, maybe I could learn something. Maybe I can get my brother to come in. No, it was totally like unexpected, but yeah. Yeah. And so speaking of taking a negative and turning it into a positive, me and my sister, it's pretty funny because we are creating a beer for my brother.
Get out of here.
Yeah. It's wild because he was an alcoholic, but I kind of feel like we needed to. Because
Wait, okay, this is amazing. Keep going. I have so many questions.
So the thing is, he was all tatted up, and we took two of the tattoos that we liked that he had on him. One of them is a horse, and he was really into space. So he had Mars also tattooed on him. He was like super into space. And we took the horse and Mars and we created like this label. And we were going to name the beer, it's in Spanish, it's called Finde, which means, it has two meanings. So Finde is like a way to say like weekend. Like when you're like, oh, para el finde, so you're talking about the weekend. Or Finde means end of. So, we decided to go with the meaning weekend because, my brother will be forever, infinity and beyond. Like I remember when we told our graphic designer, like, hey, we're going to do this beer. It's going to be for Javi. Proceeds will go to Alcoholics Anonymous, or we haven't decided yet, but we're going to give proceeds to struggling addicts. Like that's going to be turning a negative into a positive, right? It's also going to be something for his kids because he had two sons, later on. I hope to use like some like, I don't know if this is true, so don't like quote me on this, but I remember I heard somewhere that like Pablo Escobar, for instance, was like this big time, drug dealer, and he would not use his supply because the, smartest businessmen don't use their supply. I hope that's the case with my nephews and they don't drink. So I'm trying to like see if that, that works. But, also, like that's, I tell their moms all the time, my nephews, like, tell them the story. Like, you know what I mean? They have it in them too. It's, they come from a long line. They could have ADHD. Like, look into it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they should know. Like, do not keep this from them. It could save them. Like, you know what I mean? And
that's a very, very important message. A lot of families don't want to talk about that. I know I've had numerous conversations with my family that is in complete denial about, and I've watched those behaviors manifest themselves in different ways, whether it's eating, whether it's drinking, whether it's other obsessive compulsive behaviors. And everybody says, there's nothing wrong here. Like nothing to worry about. I'm like, no, I got the worst manifestation of it. I watched it all play out. And if it's not something that we're open about, like inevitably, that's something that gets passed on. And our children need to be aware of that.
Yeah, they do. I'm going to be open, with my daughters. Like maybe you can avoid it being open. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and also for them to understand that just because, their dad was not able to crawl out, like he still loved them. So
yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, it's a different situation, but kind of similar. Like when moms would lie to the children when the dad was in prison.
Oh yeah.
It's like eventually they're going to find out and they're going to know the answer. So like those kids in school could Google and find out, right? And then they're going to find out from those other kids. Or like, what if a family member down the road tell the kids before somebody else who's closer to them does. So I love that. I think that's the best advice.
And it's also like, I want, people to know, like if you have a family member that's doing it, it's like, why don't you do this for your kids? Why don't you stop for me? Why don't you, you can't do it. And it's like, I feel like it's like people maybe can't relate to drug addiction, but maybe let's take something like dieting and trying to lose weight. So, okay, you're telling me you can stop eating unhealthy all of a sudden. What happens when you like eat healthy, you know, rice, broccoli, chicken all week, and then the weekend comes and you cave? Then you just stop the diet, right? You just binge and like go back to your old ways. You get disappointed in yourself. It's like a cycle. I'm sure that, you know, I know my brother tried, you know, for them, and he would fail and then hate himself more. And it was just like a never ending like cycle thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And it was like a light bulb over my head too when somebody explained it to me. Like, it's a disease. Like, could you ever tell somebody with cancer, just make the cancer go away? Just tell it to stop growing. Like, it just doesn't work like that. Yeah. Same way with addiction. It's a disease.
Yeah. And I wish I had a better understanding. Honestly, like I know that there are, I have anger issues. I know I get even pissed like when I'm like reading studies and stuff like right now with like Ozempic, and they're like, oh, it could help addicts later on. It kind of pisses me off because I'm like, too fucking late. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but no, because I have to think of like other people, and I hope that one day they come up with something that helps. You know, that addiction or, but I feel it's hard, especially maybe just. You know, I heard an interview once of somebody that tried hardcore like heroin, you know what I mean? Like if I need a dopamine surge to make me feel right, and like say from 1 to 10, drinking a beer in the morning on an empty stomach gives me an 8. Well, heroin gives you a 100. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like off. So I understand why people get it. And it's like never the same is what I understand. I mean, I've never done heroin, but it just, you know, I heard this guy say that he just, you know, wishes he would have never tried it in the first place. Yeah. So maybe, you know, also if people are aware of like their mental, like, oh, I have ADHD, I might like that too much, or maybe even a normal person, like, hey, just, you know, be conscious that this thing is going to make you feel this much better. And, you know, maybe your life would be better if you never try it at all.
I love that.
I don't know. Like, I'm just trying to hit everybody however I can anyway, just to help them out.
Yeah.
Well, I would say your story and your brother, the experience that you've gone through has definitely been impactful. I mean, from the moment that we met you, you know, the commitment that you had to him. And when we heard that he had passed away, I mean, it affected us.
Yeah.
And we're very, very sorry for your loss, but also very grateful that you're willing to come in and share your experience and to continue to open up.
Yeah, like I just, you know, I don't want it to be for nothing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not for nothing. So, and we're going to continue to be here in support.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And we're hoping that we got to make it more of a point to get together, not just
I know.
For Murph.
Yeah, we do. We do see each other. At least this, you know, this year we didn't, you know, it wasn't like we didn't do even the same time. I feel at least message me and be like, we're going to do 11 or 8 or whatever. And then I'll make that one.
Okay.
we need to make it a point to do it more often.
For sure.
Yeah, we're of the same mindset. We kind of quietly like the suffering as well.
Yeah.
Or not so quietly.
And we need that same outlet.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, you guys are nuts. I remember I used to see, you know, Ro pregnant and like hitting like more weight than me on those like dumbbell snatches. And then you putting her on, like putting like all this weight on the sled and then her on top of it,
which was a lot of weight because I was pregnant.
Yeah. And then pushing that, like I was just like, man,
I remember.
Yeah, I was like, they are amazing. And then like I said, you guys helped me out so much. Like I probably would have had so much guilt after my brother passed if I would not have had that conversation with you guys before he did.
Oh.
So Yeah, thank you.
Of course. I remember, this is so funny. I remember I was taking a class when I was like about to pop pregnant, and you were warming up for the next class, and we were doing deadlifts. And for some reason, we were maxing out our deadlifts that day, and I felt strong, and I got like a PR with the baby this big, right? Yeah. And then they were like, she's going to put herself into labor. And you're in the back of the gym. You're like, oh, I could deliver babies. But I thought you were just saying like, I could deliver a baby. I've done it before.
Good. Yeah. I was like, you're good. I got you.
Yeah. And then like months later, we're having conversation. You're like, oh yeah, no, like I really can. Yeah. I really have.
Yeah. I was like, you go, Ro. I got you.
Yeah. All right. Now you're making me need to like the meathead in me is like, oh, you have to go get a workout. Sin City. So we're going to plan that.
We are definitely due for one. And we appreciate any time, whether it's at the gym or you coming in here, getting a chance to sit down and spend a little bit of time with you.
Okay.
It's been a great episode.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you guys.
Yeah, we loved having you here. This has been another great episode of Gritability, the power of perseverance, overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds to attain the life of your dreams and to get the opportunity to connect with amazing people. Yeah. I'm your podcast host, Adam Clausen, and
I'm Ro Clausen, and you just made me look bad because you did that perfect intro and outro twice in one episode, but that's okay.
Oh, you've got it. We'll see you back here on the next episode.
Bye.